Welcome back, everybody. Can you believe it? Week 10 of Unruly Game Nights.
10 weeks already. How time flies when you're having fun, rolling dice, and, strategizing. It's remarkable, really. Such a consistent gathering. Devotion to a shared, enjoyable activity like this. It's special. You don't see that enough these days.
A true testament to the power of games and good beer, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Cheers to that.
Cheers. And speaking of special occasions, tonight we're celebrating a double whammy. It's our 10th episode, and it's Thanksgiving.
A decennial celebration, if you will.
Exactly. So happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners out there. We're incredibly thankful for you. Now, tonight's games. Oh, they were something else. Full of surprises, clever plays, and maybe even a touch of what I like to call the unruly factor.
The unruly factor. You've piqued my curiosity. Tell me more.
Well, remember our ongoing saga of the potentially loaded dice and the infamous slanted floors at Unruly Brewing.
Ah, yes. The mysteries that continue to intrigue us.
Right. Well, tonight, those mysteries were back in full force, especially during Nellie's performance in Machikoro 2. Let's just say there were a lot of sixes rolled and a lot of raised eyebrows around the table. But before we get to the juicy details, let's set the scene. Picture this. You walk into Unruly Brewing. It's cozy, warm, inviting. You hear the clinking of those awesome Mug Club chalices.
Ah, those 20-ounce behemoths filled with craft beer goodness. I can practically taste it now.
I know, right? They had all the favorites on tap tonight. Golden Head Ale, the hazy 21 Guns IPA, even the dark and mysterious Foundry Slag Stout for those who like their brews with a little edge.
A solid lineup indeed. A brew for every palate.
And for this special occasion, Unruly Brewing even debuted a brand new beer, the El Dorado Pale Ale.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, I sample it myself, of course, for research purposes. It's a bit bitter, a little hoppy, perfect for celebrating a decade of game nights.
A fitting tribute. I commend Unruly Brewing for their commitment to innovation.
Right? They know how to make an occasion memorable. Now let's meet tonight's players. We had our usual crew, Ben, a.k.a. Game Night Vigilante, always ready to enforce the rules with a smile. Barry was back for more, as was Eric, our reigning inner Game Night Ninja.
A title he wears with pride, I'm sure.
He does. Although his title might be in jeopardy soon, but we'll get to that. And of course, we can't forget Mark, holding down the fort, as always.
The stalwarts of Unruly Game Nights. Their presence brings a sense of continuity to these gatherings, a familiar rhythm to the chaos.
Absolutely. And tonight, we had some new faces joining the fun. We had Nellie, Jen, and Oscar. They definitely shook things up, especially Nellie. But before we dive into their exploits, we have to acknowledge some notable absences tonight. Dan, the underdog, was MIA.
MIA? That's unusual for Dan.
It is. Jeff was also missing. He's been steadily climbing the ranks, and he might just challenge Eric for that ninja title soon. And then there's Dave, the hoarder, and April, the silent assassin. Turns out they opted for a different kind of Thanksgiving celebration.
Oh, do tell.
A beer dinner at Unicorn Tavern featuring Coopersville Brewing Company.
A tough choice. Game night with friends or a curated beer dinner. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the evolving landscape of craft beer experiences. Are consumers seeking something more?
That's an interesting thought. Maybe we need to add a beer pairing segment to our game nights to keep up with the competition. But I have a feeling Dan and Dave just couldn't resist the allure of a multi-course meal designed to highlight specific beers. I mean, Coopersville Brewing, they have a stellar reputation.
They do indeed. But enough about the missing players. Let's get to the heart of the matter, the games.
Okay, so we had two groups battling it out this week. One group tackled Machikoro 2, the other stuck with the classic Machikoro. Eric, our resident Machikoro 2 expert, gave us the inside scoop. Apparently, Nellie, one of our newcomers, remember, completely dominated the first game. She had this insane run of luck, rolling sixes like it was nothing.
Beginner's luck. Or something more strategic. Machikoro 2, it involves a lot of calculated risk. What was her approach?
Well, from what I gather, she went all in on cornfields early on.
Ah, interesting. In Machikoro 2, focusing on grain production, especially corn, can create a powerful economic engine, especially when you factor in those cards that multiply the value of grain. It sounds like Nellie understood that principle.
She did. She was raking in the coins turn after turn. And she even managed to snag that powerful card that boosts all grain cards. Made her cornfields even more lucrative. It was a smart play, paid off big time. Of course, all those sixes didn't hurt either.
Indeed, sometimes fortune favors the bold. Or perhaps the dice were simply on her side.
Maybe. But then we have Oscar, who took a completely different approach in the second game. He played it cool and collected, quietly building up his resources while everyone else was focused on their own strategies. And then, in the end, he snuck up and snatched victory.
A stealth victory. Classic Machikoro. Sometimes the quietest players are the most dangerous, while others are building those flashy establishments vying for attention. The patient player accumulates wealth, biding their time. And then they strategically invest at just the right moment. Oscar must have had nerves of steel.
He did. It was a masterclass in under-the-radar strategizing. Okay, let's switch gears to Ben's group, tackling the original Machi Koro. Ben, being the game night vigilante and all, had a pretty good night. 2 victories for himself.
Living up to his title? Impressive.
He is. Mark and Barry each managed to secure a win as well, so it sounds like it was a pretty close match overall.
But Ben had an interesting theory about the game. He thinks the absence of Dan and Dave might have actually worked in his favor.
And that's a fascinating angle. Every player brings their own style, their own strategy to the table. Dan with his underdog determination, and Dave with his, shall we say, unique approach to resource management. They could have thrown a wrench into things, right? Ben thinks Dan might have challenged his early game dominance, while Dave probably would have tried to hoard all the wheat fields as usual.
Ah, Dave. His unpredictability, it can be both entertaining and frustrating for his fellow players.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of his charm. But it definitely raises a question. Would the game have played out differently with him there? It's like a game night butterfly effect.
It's a fascinating thought experiment. Perhaps their presence would have forced Ben to adapt, to play more defensively. We'll never know for sure, but it adds another layer of intrigue to the night. But for now, let's adjust the elephant, or rather the dice, in the room.
You're talking about those suspicious rolls earlier.
The ones that had everyone raising eyebrows.
Oh, yeah. Especially during Nellie's Machikoro 2 win. Those 6s, they were coming up way too often. I mean, remember last week's table adjustment?
The attempt to level the playing field, so to speak.
Exactly. It seemed to solve the slanted floor issue. But now I'm starting to wonder if it's the dice themselves that are the problem.
It's a classic dilemma, luck of the draw or something more. The human mind seeks patterns even where they don't exist. We crave explanations, especially when faced with the randomness of dice.
It's like we want to believe there's a reason, some hidden force controlling our fate.
Perhaps there's comfort in that, the illusion of control.
Or maybe those dice are just, unruly, but that's a mystery we'll have to solve another time.
Indeed, the intrigue continues. Now, how about that other game?
You mean the epic clash of musical minds?
Ah, yes. Music Bingo, the 2nd week in a row, it seems. A bold move by Unruly Brewing, shaking up the established game night dynamic.
It is, and it begs the question. Is Music Bingo a friend or foe to our beloved game night?
Will it enhance the experience, or is it a distraction, a battle for attention?
It's hard to say for sure. On one hand, it does add a certain energy to the atmosphere. People singing along, maybe even dancing. It brings a different vibe.
I see the appeal, lighthearted, engaging, no prior knowledge required, no strategic planning, a break from the mental exertion of board games.
Exactly. Like a palate cleanser between courses,
Yeah.
A moment to relax, recharge before diving back into those strategic depths.
However, I can also see how it might be perceived as a disruption, especially for those deeply engrossed in their games. The music, the announcements, it can be distracting.
True. Not everyone enjoys a game interrupted by Bon Jovi or, say, a Beyonce trivia round. It's about finding that balance, making sure everyone feels comfortable, regardless of their musical preferences.
Precisely. Respecting the preferences of all participants, it's a delicate balance, ensuring both activities can coexist harmoniously without one overshadowing the other.
Maybe Unruly Brewing could designate separate areas. One for Music Bingo, one for the board game.
An excellent suggestion. That way everyone can choose their level of engagement. But for now, the jury's still out on Music Bingo. We'll have to see how it evolves, whether it can find its place within the Unruly game night ecosystem.
Exactly. It's an intriguing subplot to our ongoing game night saga. Okay, folks, before we move on to the second half of our Thanksgiving game night extravaganza, let's take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It's doggone Tuesday, come on down. Second first time, the forever town. Hot dog, sizzle, and dick was grilled. With every bunch of Jimmy Buckley. Got 2 weeks, doggone, dog break free. My buddies to the generosity. Tomato and dog, circuit up, fish soup. Doggone Tuesday, all thanks to you.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Unruly Game Nights. Fascinating to see how a simple game night can become so much more, a tapestry of personalities, strategies, those unexpected moments.
It really is. Every week brings new surprises, new challenges, new opportunities to celebrate those who emerge victorious. And speaking of victories, let's circle back to Machikoro 2 for a minute. Nelly's cornfield domination, that was impressive. But Oscar's stealthy win in that second game, that was something else.
A reminder that Machikoro isn't just about building the most impressive city or racking up the most points. It's about understanding the flow of the game, knowing when to invest, when to hold back, and when to capitalize on your opponent's moves.
He was like a shadow, quietly observing, biding his time, and then bam, he strikes.
Precisely. He likely recognized Nelly's aggressive approach in the first game, how it might have left her vulnerable. Perhaps he focused on a more diversified portfolio of establishments, allowing him to generate income from a wider range of dice rolls. And then, as the game progressed and others depleted their resources, he swooped in, making strategic investments, securing those crucial landmarks.
He was playing a different game entirely. While everyone else was focused on the immediate gains, he was thinking ahead, the long game.
That's the mark of a true strategist, not getting caught up in the frenzy, staying calm, observant, waiting for the right moment to strike.
It's a good lesson, I think, for any game, really. Sometimes the most effective strategy is the one that flies under the radar.
Absolutely. Patience, observation, understanding the mechanics of the game, those can be just as powerful as those big risky moves.
Speaking of bold moves, can't forget about Ben's double victory in the original Machikoro. Really lived up to his Game Night Vigilante title.
Ben's consistent performance suggests a mastery of the classic game. He's clearly found a strategy that works well for him, and he executes it effectively.
Tough opponent, that's for sure. But Mark and Barry, they each got a win as well, proving that even the most seasoned players can be dethroned on any given night.
Their victories, they demonstrate the importance of adaptability, resilience, in the face of a strong opponent. They didn't let those early losses discourage them, kept their focus, adjusted their strategies, and found a path to victory.
And who knows? If Dan and Dave had been there, the outcome might have been completely different. Dave's hoarding tendencies, Dan's optimism, it could have thrown a wrench in things.
That's the beauty of Unruly Game Nights. It's a dynamic system. Every player, every strategy, even every absence, it can impact the outcome.
A chaotic but strangely harmonious dance of personalities and dice rolls.
Indeed. And speaking of chaos, how about that music bingo conundrum? Enhancing the experience or just a disruptive force? What are your thoughts?
Tough to say for sure. On the one hand, it adds a certain energy. People singing along, tapping their feet, brings a different vibe to the brewery.
I can see the appeal. Lighthearted, engaging, a break from the mental workout of those more strategic games.
Like a palate cleanser, a moment to relax and recharge.
But I can also see how it might be a distraction, especially for those who are, really into their games. That music, the announcements, it can break your concentration.
Right. Not everyone enjoys a game interrupted by a burst of Bon Jovi or a surprise Beyoncé trivia round.
It's about finding that balance, respecting everyone's preferences, making sure everyone can enjoy themselves, whether they're there for the music or the board games.
Maybe separate areas would help. Music bingo in one spot, board games in another.
A good solution, perhaps, giving everyone a choice. But ultimately, the jury's still out on music bingo. We'll have to see how it fits in over time.
It's an intriguing subplot to our ongoing game night saga. But let's not forget about those who chose a different path tonight. Dan, Jeff, Dave, and April, our intrepid beer dinner adventurers.
Yes, the missing players. I wonder what culinary delights they're experiencing over at Unicorn Tavern. I imagine it's already trying to figure out how to procure an extra growler of Coopersville's finest.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah.
But their absence also highlights the range of craft beer experiences that are out there, from casual game nights to curated beer dinners.
Something for everyone. It's all part of that expanding world of craft beer culture.
And who knows, maybe next week they'll be back sharing stories of their beer-infused culinary adventures.
I look forward to hearing them. But for now, let's return to the heart of our Thanksgiving game night celebration, shall we? Those dice, the strategies, the moments that make these gatherings so memorable.
And of course, we can't forget the most important element, the beer.
The fuel that keeps those games flowing, the laughter echoing, the strategies brewing, the common thread that connects us all. A reminder that even in the heat of competition, there's always time for a cheers.
Well said. Before we move on, I think we should take a moment to appreciate Unruly Brewing itself. What is it about this place that makes it such a perfect setting for our weekly gatherings?
It's more than just a brewery, it's a community hub. A place where people come together, to share their love of craft beer, good company, and a little friendly competition.
You can feel it when you walk in. Warm, inviting, that sense of shared passion, the kind of place where you can be yourself, let your guard down, and just enjoy the moment.
And that, I think, is the essence of Unruly Game Nights. It's not just about the games or the victories or even the beer. It's about the connections we make, the memories, the shared experiences that make life a little richer, a little more vibrant.
Beautifully said. Speaking of vibrant experiences, we can't forget our weekly musical tradition, the song that will accompany us on our journey home, the song that captures the spirit of Unruly Game Nights.
I believe I have just the song in mind. But first, I think we could all use a moment to refresh our palates, prepare for the grand finale. Stay tuned, folks. The best is yet to come.
Hardcore game.